deserve to
Please,
be
you're gonna make me
happy.
cry. You wanna hang up the phone?
Sometimes, because it's the truth, girl. It's the truth. Sometimes I feel like we don't deserve to be happy,
That's
and we
crazy.
do. We do.
Ooh,
I'm sorry to get
I'm
there,
gonna go
but
talk to my life coach.
I can see the stars align.
Hey Lions, welcome to another episode of Lionhearted Conversations with the Lion's Pride. I'm so excited to not only have our first guest ever joining me today, but this is someone that has inspired me in so many ways. Edwin Perez, aka Couch Buddha. They were actually the reason I started this podcast. So I'm super excited to have you, and I'll let you introduce yourself properly in just a moment. But I just want to give them a little background as to how we've connected. We started out as mutuals on TikTok, and then we collabed on 2 episodes last year in a series called Let's Be Real, where we just gave our truth on a couple of topics. And I realize as I'm sharing this right now that was a pivot in my life as far as realizing how important it is to not only surround yourself with like-minded people as well as who you follow on social media, but it's also important to have people in your circle who believe in supporting your vision and who hold you accountable. And I think that is someone that you have been for me in my journey in so many ways, Edwin. So I just want to say thank you for being here. I am forever grateful for you. And I'd like for you to introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, what you do, and one fun fact about you, I guess.
That's a pretty interesting icebreaker. I like that. So,
I have an
um,
actual icebreaker, but I do want you to introduce yourself a little bit.
absolutely. Okay, cool. So I'm Edwin. I have a TikTok called Couch Buddha. I aim to be a life coach. So I'm in the process of it. I actually just recently got certified for an expert by experience by the NCFE with the UK. So that was a pretty interesting, and so probably going to come up in conversation. But I work a daytime job, but I also am focusing on becoming a full-time life coach so I can help others empower themselves and, like yourself, share positivity and just genuine conversations. So the one fun fact about me is I also have done stand-up comedy. Yeah,
I
I think that's
remember you
pretty
sharing
interesting.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you do it
It's
more
hard.
frequently now?
So funny, I think you're starting off with a really perfect question. That's actually I want to say that's always been kind of like a dream of mine. But then I realized that the dream was not just being a comedian, but being on stage. And then as I started growing and I started dealing with my personal things in life, I'm like, I can always be funny and I can always be a comedian, but
Mm-hmm.
I can share positivity with life coaching. So life coaching has been a big part of what I'm focusing on right now, which involves
Okay.
podcasting and doing what I do. But comedy is always going to be a part of me as a vent, in society. Like when the pandemic
Yeah.
happened and, everybody had something to say about the pandemic, I'm like, I have a whole pandemic special in my mind. You know what I mean? Like I have a whole
Yeah.
Netflix special in my head. So yeah.
So would you say that's like a way to cope kind of with the process of life or like life experiences, so to speak?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that everybody should find a way to kind of like, it doesn't have to be, people always cope with drugs, alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
or the kind of like ways of changing our mindset or temporarily, of course,
Mm-hmm.
so like to get away from the day to day.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely feel like it is a healthy way to do it.
Okay.
Actually, I think that one of the most recent best ways that I found to get it off of my chest, because I deal with anger, I struggle with anger, and it's something that's I really really focus on doing that before I can help anybody else on that. I can tell you about
Okay.
anxiety and depression because I can say I've kicked its ass, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't kicked anger's ass just yet. So right
Mm.
now, don't ask me on how, because I could give you a couple
Mm.
tips, but it's kicked me harder than I kicked it. So
Okay.
dealing with things like that is trying to find a way to get it out. For
Mm-hmm.
me, was audio. Like what I'll do is I'll literally just say something in an audio, so I can it records me venting of however I feel about anything, and then
Okay.
I'll delete it later.
Yeah.
Nobody has to hear that, but you want to hear yourself being angry and be like, do I have valid reasons to be angry? Like when you put it away, in other words, like yell out your feelings, get it all out, put that audio away. Once you're yourself again and you're less emotional, listen to that audio and pretend like it's not you.
So you just said, though, you have not mastered, so to speak. I don't even want to say master because you didn't use that word.
Right,
You
but
haven't fully kicked its butt, but you
conquered.
just gave a
Right.
great tip that I didn't realize I needed until you shared it. So thank you for that. I think you just jumped into something that we could definitely pick apart, but I do want to ask you a question. And this is something I want to do for all of my guests, to kind of just pick your brain a little bit. I hate small talk, which we never
Yeah.
have, but I
Yeah.
think that's a way to like kind of break the ice for me. And if you could share, what's one thing or practice that has vastly improved your quality of life?
Oh, simple. You already know. Mind, body, and spirit. Like that
Okay.
answer, it was just ready to come out as soon as you asked it, because it seemed corny at the time, because the first time it was brought up to my attention or brought
Yeah.
up to me, mind, body, and spirit seemed kind of corny, for lack of a better term. And I was like, what do you mean mind, body, and spirit? My boss was like, when's the last time you read a book? When's the last time you went to the gym? When's the last time you went to church? Because he knows that I grew up Christian, so and I
Right.
consider myself to be a Christian to a certain extent. And with that being said, when he asked me that, the answer to all of them was like over 2 years. It's been over 2 years since I read a book. It's been over like 2 years since I've gone to the gym, and it's been over like 4 years at that time that I've been to a church. So when he's like, when those are not in sync, nothing in your life is going to be in sync.
Yeah.
I'm like, interesting. Then I started reading, started working out, started going to church. And it's funny because it all happened around the same time. And it unlocked something in me that kind of was already there, but it allowed me to appreciate it more, which is my internal happiness. I grew up with an amazing mother. My mom was a great person. She had her little toxic side, but that's why, I don't marry my mom. I don't marry anybody close. If somebody reminds me of my mom, it is a red flag. But as a mother, so as a mother, she's amazing. As a spouse, I'm like, yeah. So with that being said, mind, body, and spirit really changed my life because it allowed me to realize something that I was given, which is discipline and love, that's brought happiness. And the problem is we all kind of have it as babies unless we're traumatized. And somebody takes that away from us. And that's why, people is like, they always abuse children because of that innocence. And, it's obviously extremely messed up to take that away from them. So unless somebody takes that away from us, you're naturally born happy.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I believe that the problem was either we're not aware that it's almost a privilege. And it is a right, but it's also a privilege because we have to work on it. I feel like we're negative built biologically. We're built to be negative, to be aware of like the bad. So we always look for the bad. It's called don't quote me on this, but I believe it's called the articular receptive system, the ARS in your brain. So if I tell you to look for everything red in the room, you'll look for all the reds. But if I'm like, hey, name 2 green things, your brain wasn't looking for it. You buy a new Honda Civic, you're gonna start seeing a bunch of Hondas on the road.
Yep. Or even thinking about it. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of what it is sometimes if you are a happy person, you forget that, like, hey, be grateful that you're happy, because not everybody has that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Some people do get traumatized. Some people can't be happy because they never found somebody that can give it to them. They've never found somebody that can empower them to do it for themselves, or they just really haven't discovered another level of spirituality. So to answer your question, I'm sorry I went on a rant.
It's
but
okay.
Yeah, mind, body, and spirit, just working on your brain, working on your body, working on your soul. And once you kind of get a little bit of those intact, things start getting better. Absolutely.
Now, how do you, because this is something I've been struggling with, how do you feel like you can keep a homeostasis with all three of those aspects, keep them in harmony, so to speak, when life starts to life, when you are busy, work got busier, maybe something happens in your personal life, how can you continue to nurture those aspects and foster that harmony, so to speak? How do you feel like you can do it for yourself, or do you struggle with that as well?
I mean, anybody that tells you they don't struggle with it is lying.
Mm.
So that's just what I think, because otherwise you'd be transcending. You'd either be passed away, God said, hey, appreciate you being here. If you really did have all of those in sync, you have reached enlightenment, and you're not even doing what we're doing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And
No,
I'm
I
not saying
get
that what
that.
we're doing is wrong. Obviously, we're
Mhm.
trying to empower and encourage people, but when you reach that level of consciousness, I feel like you'll know.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
But as far as how do you go about it, is mind, body, and spirit has a lot. Remember how I brought that up, and it says it has a lot to do with life.
Mhm.
One of the few things that I do talk about when I do life coaching is also your finances, because
Yeah.
it's inevitable. You have to know how to manage your money properly, or you're just going to be part of the rat race your entire
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
So to piggyback on your question, but to bring something that has to do with what we're used to, which is money. If you
Mm.
don't know how to manage your money, you're going to be in that cycle. Because guess what? People don't save money. If you don't save money,
Mhm.
but rainy days are going to happen.
Mhm.
So does that mean that you shouldn't plan for are you planning for a rainy day? Are you planning on saving money for when you get in a car accident, God forbid, and now you have to pay a deductible? Are you saving your
Mhm.
money so that, my AC broke, now I have to fix my AC? Things are going to happen.
Mhm.
So you should have two things prepared. One, prepare yourself for what can happen.
Mhm.
And if something does happen, what's your plan B? So, okay. For example, my perfect example is I don't drive, so I walk
Mhm.
to exercise. Edwin,
Okay.
what happens if it rains? Does Edwin not walk because it rains? No, Edwin should have a
Mm.
plan B, as in, if it rains, I got to do 50 push-ups.
Mm.
Because I'm going to be real with you. I'm not a big gym freak. I used to be, but I'm not. I've never really been a gym freak in the sense of like creatine and all that other stuff and working out. Like I just like to keep fit. I just like to stay
Mhm.
fit. It's not for everybody. I like to stay fit enough that I can, if I have kids, I can play with my kids and not be like, you know. So, and again, I apologize because when you ask me a question, it takes me like 2-3 minutes to respond.
We are
But
the same. Don't apologize. It's okay.
thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you understanding. But it
Mhm.
comes with knowing yourself.
Mhm.
We all have patterns. And the first thing
Mhm.
about mind, body, and spirit, before you even start looking at it, is like, where do I need to improve? So I know I can be
Mm.
lazy. Like, I know this doesn't sound appealing. It doesn't sound sexy. I schedule lazy time. Sometimes
No,
it's
that's
spontaneous. You know what I mean?
amazing, actually. So that it's not happening on accidentally, and you're not just wasting time. It's
And you don't feel
intentional.
exactly. And
Yeah,
thank you for
that's
saying
great.
that's the magic word.
Mhm.
What you just said
Mhm.
is the magic word: intentional.
Mhm.
Intentionality is everything. So if your intentions is really to lose weight, are they really your intentions? Because your body,
Mm.
what you're doing, everything else that you're eating, and everything doesn't
Mhm.
tell me that that's what your intention is.
Absolutely.
And if your intention isn't there, then just know yourself. Be like, you know what, Edwin gets lazy after work. So I give myself like 30 minutes of just like, just sit there and just like Patrick Star Netflix. I
Yeah.
just sit there and I enjoy it, take it all in. And I don't feel bad about it, because let's be
Mhm.
honest, when we get lazy or whenever we start procrastinating, we hate ourselves afterwards. We're like, oh, I should have done this, I
Mhm.
should have done that. And it's like,
Mhm.
it's always self-sabotage and self-sabotage. Know yourself.
Mhm.
Plan
Mhm.
for who you I know I'm gonna get. So perfect example is, I have cravings. I'm not even a pregnant woman, but there's times where I go through DoorDash and I'll be like,
Mhm.
yo, that sounds good right now. But
Mhm.
but guess what? It's already
Mhm.
allocated. It's already part of my budget,
Mhm.
because I know
Mhm.
myself. I know everyone's gonna have cravings. So guess what? I'm gonna delegate $60 a month for cravings.
Mhm.
That's what I mean. So that's the same way with mind, body, and spirit. Okay.
Mhm.
I know I get lazy around halfway through the week. So I'll just work out Monday, Tuesday, I'll take a break Wednesday, and I'll work out Thursday and Saturday or whatever.
Okay.
Know yourself. Know how
Yeah,
much
yeah,
you can
yeah.
actually take. And I think that's
Mhm.
really where it starts.
Mm. And I think you just gave me a huge realization, which is you have to kind of go through trial and error to figure out what it is that's going to work for you. Because
Absolutely.
I think like my problem is I want to do everything all the time, like right then and there. So I will have like this huge ambition or drive to like wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., work out, meditate, journal, do this, do that, do that. And I'm like, by the time I actually start my day, one, did I even go to sleep early enough to be able to wake up early enough? 9 times out
Right,
of
right.
10, never.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
have to like understand what our actual capacity is and knowing that we
Exactly.
can do anything we set our minds to, but are we setting ourselves up for success? And I think that's what you just helped me to realize. Um, you said something else, and to the point of finances, my question as someone to you who deals with finances, how can you help someone wrap their head around this topic when we are currently in an economy that is pretty much straining or putting this level of pressure where it feels like a lot of people are drowning, living paycheck to paycheck, and essentially can't have a sustainable budget, so to speak. So it's hard to actually budget in these things, or really like live comfortably, you know?
Mm. Where do you live again? You said,
Maryland.
yeah, I know you live up Maryland. Okay, so
Hmm.
you guys have one of the highest cost of livings in the entire country.
It's insane.
Um, yeah, I know that. So, I mean, one, it definitely has to do with your demographic, with your geography
Hmm.
of where you are. But
Hmm.
let's just say I'm in your situation where, or in anybody's situation for that matter, that in Florida, because I live in Florida.
Hmm.
So savings is a bill. That's the first thing I ever teach anybody that has like that's just trying to learn basics. And I think that that's
Hmm.
their biggest mistake is that you pay every single body else but yourself. This is
Yeah.
shout out to the book The Richest Man of Babylon. That's something that it teaches you immediately, and it's basically saying that you pay, whatever your rent company's name is, you pay them
Hmm.
first. Oh, you're buying yourself clothes, you're paying Louis first. You're paying Gucci first. You're paying Marshalls first, right?
Hmm.
You're paying
Hmm.
T-Mobile first. You pay
Oh, please.
everybody
That
and their
word triggers
mama.
me. I hate T-Mobile with a passion. Go ahead.
Right. So, you pay everybody else but yourself.
Hmm.
And the problem is people live paycheck to paycheck, but I think that that's not the problem that you're living paycheck to paycheck. You can live paycheck to paycheck, but the needle has to be moving on the other side. We have two lives. We have a work life and we have a personal life. If
Hmm.
your work life contains so much time and it drains you so much that you do not have
Hmm.
time for your personal life to grow, you're in the wrong
Mm.
place. And
Absolutely.
don't get me wrong. I know it's tough because sometimes you may have to have a specific job because it pays good money and whatever, but that's a
Hmm.
sacrifice that you have to take. So
Oh,
essentially, what I'm
absolutely.
trying to say is, just like we talked about earlier, rainy days are going to happen. Even if you
Hmm.
start saving $25 a paycheck, just as a test, try 1 month, $25 a
Hmm.
paycheck. And this is for, again, anybody who's listening. If you can do that and still find a way
Hmm.
to make 25 bucks somewhere else, something easy, right? You can be like, I am living paycheck to paycheck, but something moved. And now I have
Hmm.
$50.
Hmm.
And when people start replacing the word money for time, how much
Hmm.
time do you actually have? If your bills are
Hmm.
3,000 a month and you have $3,000 in your savings, I don't see 3,000. I see a month. I have a month. Have you ever seen the movie In Time with Justin Timberlake?
I have not. I
I think you
might have,
should
but I
watch it.
don't think so. Okay.
It's a really great movie. The concept of the movie is basically they have this like this time, like a clock on their forearm that
Hmm.
once they hit 25, it starts at 1 year and you have 1 year. And you make money by like if you work, you get time. If you
Mm.
work, you get time. A cup of coffee costs 5 minutes. And then the next day, like
Oh
2 weeks
my
later,
gosh.
a cup of coffee costs like half an hour. Like, and it's like they start like inflation in their eyes is like, imagine how we used to pay for a McChicken. Here, we can do some math. So, right, back in the day, minimum wage, $8 an hour, right? One divided by
Hmm.
eight. One divided by eight is 12%. So 12.5% is of your actual minimum wage is going toward that. I mean, chicken's like $3, girl.
I
But
know.
the minimum wage didn't go up 3 times. Does that make sense?
Right. No, it makes perfect
So
sense.
so back to what you were saying, how do people do it is, one, it starts with sacrificing, and it starts with accepting your
Mhm.
financial
It does.
situation.
It
It
does.
does. So it's
Mhm.
like either one or two things. You're either going to work harder to keep a certain lifestyle. If I only eat
Mhm.
good food, all right, girl, you better start getting a good job. I'm just being real. You better either, if you don't want to live paycheck to paycheck, something has to go. It's either your lifestyle, right? Either your lifestyle has to go or your
Mm.
personal life has to go. But you
That's a
have to have
hard
an
pill to
end goal.
swallow.
It
Yeah.
is. And listen,
Mhm.
girl, I've been broke. I've been broke. There's not a question about it. I've had people.
Laugh
Yeah,
to keep from
exactly.
crying.
No, broke, like go to sleep for dinner. Go to
Bruh,
sleep for dinner,
I
bro.
understand.
So, handling your finances comes with finding other ways to make income. We live in,
Mhm.
especially for somebody, this goes to, and I'm not trying to be rude when I say this, but somebody that's a millennial that knows how to use social media, right? If you guys have a couple thousand followers and you're broke, you're tripping. Why?
Oh yeah.
Because you can leverage social media into monetizing something. You can literally
Yes.
you can start doing freaking surveys online if you need an extra couple $100 a month,
Mhm.
right? There's
Mhm.
always different ways to do it.
Mhm.
You just have to, again, intentionality. You have to look into it, put a picture, like almost like a vision board, like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I hate my job, but I know that this is temporary. Because if you're
Mhm.
gonna hate your job, then you quit your job, then you go to another job and you hate that job. So you're in the same
Mhm.
cycle versus saying, yeah, I hate this job, but it pays the bills and it moves this needle that's gonna push me to the level where I don't have to work at one point, you
Right.
know? And that's kind of, I feel like, the financial goal for me is make money without having to work for it. Make money make itself.
Make money work for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
I appreciate that insight. And I think especially in a generation, because I believe we're in different generations. You're a millennial.
Mhm.
I'm unfortunately a Gen Z. I missed the mark by like a year, but we're not gonna talk about it.
I feel bad.
But like in
Sorry to hear.
my generation, it's okay. It's okay. I feel bad sometimes too. But
It's okay.
I feel like in my generation, we are so much more impulsive than your generation is. It may be impulsive to different degrees, but in the sense that like when we want something, we want it and don't necessarily think of the consequences as much. And it's hard for us to rationalize the fact of like having to sacrifice anything, whether that be time, which is why I think so many of us, not I would put myself in this category, is quick to quit a job that doesn't fulfill them. And like you said, it could pay them a lot of money. I've been in that position more than once, but left because it was draining my spirit and my mind.
And which is more important.
Exactly. Which I then now have to ask you to kind of clarify something you said earlier about like getting happiness, which personally I believe happiness is something that we get from within. And I want to I can't quote him verbatim, but I saw a video from Will Smith and he was basically talking about like how he got to a point in his life where he realized nothing outside of his life could make him happy, because he realized with all of his fame, with all of his success, with all the money he had accumulated, he could buy anything he wanted. He could have whatever he wanted tangibly, but he realized none of that actually made him happy. So 2 questions. I feel like I know the answer, but 2, do you think that money can buy you happiness personally for you? And 2, do you truly feel like happiness is something outside of you, or it's something that you gain, or rather it's something you already have but you haven't tapped into?
So you got to pay extra for those kind of questions because that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first question, I'm gonna try to be short, but and again we can go in depth, but yes, it can buy you happiness. I feel like a lot of people make, and I read this book called The Business Secrets from the Bible, and one of the things that makes Jewish that makes the Jews predominantly wealthier than most other
Yeah.
cultures is because they don't view money as an evil thing. People are like, money is
Mm.
evil. Money is the root of all evil. Money makes people bad people. No, money is an extension of yourself. If you're telling me, so we have a plan. I'll give some of my personal experience. So we have a family Destin trip. Destin, Florida is known for like really clear, beautiful beaches here in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a plan, and then to go down there, and I was trying to go to the water park and ride on this pontoon boat, right, which is like $700 for 4 hours. And the family's like, oh, let's do the water park because it's cheaper.
Right.
And I looked at them and I was like, I'm gonna try to find a way to pay for that, even if it's just half. I asked them, I'm like, hey, if I pay for half of this, are you guys willing to just match up on the other half? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. But then, like, if I have the money, it's gonna allow me to have a better time and a better quality of life, right? And I think that people almost like, they feel like, no, just because I'm rich doesn't mean I gotta live a certain lifestyle. Like, it's okay because you earned it. If you didn't earn it and you feel some type of way, maybe that's because you know you didn't do it the right way. But what I'm trying to say is that money can, and it leads to the second question. Money cannot buy you internal happiness, but it can make your reality form of, like, if you remember, money is an extension of yourself. So if you're a selfless person, yes, it's going to make you happy because now you have more to give. Right? Does that make sense? So essentially it could buy you happiness, but the internal happiness that we all try to seek, it'll never cover it. It'll never cover it. If you gave me, like, my biggest fear, girl, is that I become a millionaire and I die and my mom. It's like, damn, I didn't even get to share with my mom.
Like, that's your money.
Like, I don't mind my mom getting the money when I die. It's just like, damn, like, I really wanted to spend it with you. I wanted to spend it with you. Like, I'm like, God, please don't take me away when I'm rich, because I don't want to just die. Like, Edwin just hit $1 million and he dies. I'm like, damn.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, I'm sorry, something keeps coming up here and it keeps lagging my computer. But yeah, and it cannot buy, and then happiness is an in-look thing, not an outlook thing. You know, your in-look determines your outlook. So happiness is, that's why I said it kind of carries over to this. It's internal. It definitely is internal, because you can have the external look like total shit, and everything around you is just crap. And somebody is like, nah, it's cool. Like, there's a purpose for this, or there's something better than this. Oh, at least, you know, you have to ride your bike to work. Hey, at least I have legs to use my bike.
Who are you telling?
Oh, you lost your legs. You lost your legs. Hey, at least I got these hands to carry me around.
You know?
It's like, bro, haven't you seen this? Like, isn't there a motivational speaker with no hands and feet?
Yeah.
Like, hello?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's my point. So that's internal happiness, and that money doesn't buy you that. Money can buy you that luxury. Money can buy you, like, the monetary, you said, the tangible things in life. But me, I'm a memory maker. I don't care about buying you a brand new purse. I don't want to buy my girl a diamond ring. I want to get us a trip to Vegas. I want to get us a trip to Dubai.
Yes.
You know, enjoy moments, right? So yeah, girl, you're telling me I'd rather hang out in California than downtown Jacksonville. Hello. Yes. Money can buy you happiness, and the people that say they don't have not unlocked a certain level of, like, accept that God also has a lot to do with your finances. It does. Like, how you are, how you correlate, and how you extend yourself with your tithes and offerings. And I'm not telling you to be like the church, like, oh, give me 10%. No, it's just like, if you have money, you paid all your bills, you went on your trips. Edwin went on his trip. Ooh, Edwin took nice pictures. Oh, that boy drinking wine. Okay, that boy out there. Okay, I see you. God's like, okay, like, God's flexing with you. You feel me? That's how I see it. God's like, okay, I see you, boy, on top of the mountain. Okay. Ooh, you guys got a nice rental. I see you. Hey, but there's some homeless people downtown. You feeding them?
Period. Yes.
You feeding them?
Yes.
So, because you have enough to do all of this, but do you have enough to give back? And that's kind of where I say it's bullshit when people are like, oh, no, money can't buy you happiness. Yes, it can, man. It just doesn't buy you internal happiness, and separate the two. External happiness is what you can do with tangible things. Internal happiness is take all of that shit away. Are you still happy?
Now, question. Would you say then you could exchange the word happiness when you talk about the external to joy?
Yeah, I think you could. I think you
Because
could, because
happiness is
there's
such an extreme to me, and I've been really struggling with that word. Not in the sense that I'm not happy. I am mentally, emotionally, spiritually in one of the best spaces I've been in a really long time. But
Mhm.
I don't feel comfortable saying I feel happy because I feel like there's this expectation as to what happiness looks like. And I've gotten that a lot recently where I ran into some old coworkers and they're like, "You look so happy." And I'm like, what you see and what I feel don't equate. Does that make sense?
Mm,
Not to say I don't
mm.
feel the way I look, but you personally see happiness and I just feel
Can I
content
ask you a
and like
question?
whole. Go ahead.
Y- Have you ever felt that it's the other way around?
What do you
Do you
mean?
feel like maybe you are really happy and you just don't want
Mm-hmm.
to feel happy? Like you don't feel like you
Oh,
deserve to
please,
be
you're gonna make me
happy.
cry. You wanna hang up the phone.
Sometimes, sometimes, because it's the truth, girl. It's the truth. Sometimes I feel like we don't deserve to be happy,
That's
and we
crazy.
do. We do.
Oh,
And I'm sorry to get
I'm
there,
gonna go
but
talk to my life
it's
coach.
because it's real, girl. You
Ew,
know,
nah.
it's real. Like, sometimes we feel like people can see that and people can sense that, and you're not wrong. Don't get me, like, there definitely this isn't like you have to look like this to be happy. Like, but
Yeah, I
if
see what you're
people
saying.
can sense that, right? If people like NPCs, right? Because sometimes some of these people aren't even like main characters in our lives. If these
Yeah.
randoms can sense that you are happy,
Mm, mm,
then
mm,
just tell
mm.
yourself, you know what? Maybe I am happy. And you don't
And I
gotta
haven't
hide it, girl.
accepted it. That's
Exactly.
crazy.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
like downplaying it because I'm like, if this gets too loud and the world
You think
hears I'm
start
happy, they're
right. Exactly, girl. Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. Exactly.
No, you
Because
just
you
brought the realization to me. Like I've shared this thought to a few people now, and you're the first person to like get me to see it from that perspective. And that's why I'm crying because I'm like, damn, my soul needed that realization.
it's cool. It's cool.
And
I'm glad.
it goes to the point of like when you're always looking, as you say, back to the beginning of this conversation, you're always looking for the bad. That like because you're so used to it, that you don't know what good is. And so once it does happen, you're so afraid of bad happening that you're not even acknowledging what is happening, like what
Correct.
good is actually going on. So thank you for that realization. And I know we hit
Absolutely.
30 minutes, but I do want to follow up or finish this conversation with
Hmm.
something you started with,
Okay.
which is you say you struggle with anger.
Mm,
And that is something that I have, how do I say? It is an emotion I've never allowed myself to feel fully
mm.
because of my fear of what that'll do to me or what I would do to others, so to speak. And so like when you say you struggle with it, how does that manifest itself?
Lack of patience. I
Mm,
am one of the most impatient person you will ever meet. Um, I think it comes with, and I've done some self work, some like I
mhm.
think people are starting to call it shadow work, but
Yeah.
that's not kind of how I do it, but it's essentially the same thing, but it's like asking yourself, like really really dissecting yourself and asking where this comes from. Um, Me and my mom share this thing, and it's a power complex. We have a power
Mm,
complex. We like to be in control, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be a bad thing, because I feel like I consider myself to be a great leader, and people have told me that. So I at least I can vouch and say, hey, it's not just me that says that. But
mhm.
there's times where I get impatient, where I can't control the situation. I can control what time I get to you, but if
Mm,
traffic hits, now you
mm.
messing with my time. You feel me? And it's like, yo, I'm supposed to be there at 8. I know what I'm doing, right?
I
Like,
feel this
why
personally.
isn't the universe not cooperating? Hello, like, you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
my anger, which again I had to do a lot more research, and really where anger comes from and where it stands, and what I've come to find is your perceived expectations versus your perceived reality. That's the formula of
Mhm.
anger. What you think is going
Mm,
to happen based off of what's previously happened to you, and what you think is going to happen based off of your previous endeavors
right.
versus what actually happens. Oh, based
Mhm.
on this. And traders, people who do stock, they're like, have you ever seen memes of like people are like, oh, they should go up? goes back down. Like, so it's kind of like that. Your perceived
Mm-hmm.
expectation is, oh, okay, so A plus B is C. Okay,
Yeah.
so that means A plus B is F. Like, what? What do you mean? And then you get pissed because you're not in control.
Yeah.
So what I've come to find is what helps me for anger is acknowledging it. Acknowledging it is like, why am I angry? Why am I actually so pissed? Like, what is it that I'm actually really pissed about? Is it what's happening in front of me, or is it something that's been happening? Because that's another thing. We tend to avoid emotions and trauma or difficult conversations that it shows up at a random place, and then now we think this place is the problem, or or where I'm at right now is the problem, not what
Right.
happened back here.
Yeah.
So,
Ooh.
yeah, it's tough for me because it's almost like you like it. I hate saying it like that because when you're pissed, it's like, oh man, I could flip a fucking car right now.
Have you listened or read the book The Courage to be Disliked?
No, I haven't. I'm gonna write that down. The
I'm in
courage
the
to,
middle
or
of it
text
right
it to me.
now.
Yeah.
I got you. I forget who the author is, but it's basically this conversation between a philosopher and this young man, and he's talking about how like we choose to be angry, or like it's something that we, as you say, like, because we have the ability to tap into these feelings. So it's not the way he structured it is that this person or this situation did not make you angry. You wanted to be angry, so you allowed that situation to flick you off, essentially.
Right.
And like it goes into this idea that we are addicted to certain emotions because of either it reminds us of our upbringing or our trauma. It keeps us in this idea. And I feel like all of our conversations, I've been wanting to bring this up, is how we see ourselves. Do we see ourselves as you said, someone who's impatient, meaning that you're more prone to dealing with situations with impatience because that's how you view yourself? Or someone like me who's super sensitive. So everything I encounter, I filter it through that sensitivity instead of just accepting that life is life and I can approach it a certain way if I choose to. So it's just either way. I think that you've brought up a huge point and I feel like you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think people always misinterpret life coaches and people, motivational speakers, therapists. Nobody has it figured out.
I was
Like
about
I
to say,
said,
like,
if
we all
we
got it together.
we
Hell
no, nobody has it together.
no.
But I also believe that there's something that you and I share, and it's our vulnerability. And I believe
Yes.
that I've said this, which I haven't aired it yet, but in my first episode, I talk about the power of vulnerability. And there is power in vulnerability. Like most people would be like, "Oh, this guy's a life coach, but he struggles with anger." Like, yeah, but at least he's acknowledging it and aware of it and working on it.
And working on it.
So that's really like, that's how I see people. I don't really judge people for who they are. I judge people for how they act. And when defining moments happen, oh, okay, so you're really not just rich, because when the bill came, you flinched. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're, oh, okay, so that's a rental, not a real, you know what I'm saying? Or define, oh, I got your back. And then something actually happens, a physical
And you're not
altercation,
there.
and then you're not there,
Yeah.
or you're there, but you're tough, but now you're scared. So defining moments really define people. So absolutely, girl, I 100% agree with you. That's something that I'm working on and that I've acknowledged. I'm like, dang, like, why do I like it? Oh, it's because I feel strong. But then afterwards, you feel weak. Weak. So in anger, the last thing I have to say about that, because I know that we have to wrap this up. The last thing is that anger to me is also your body telling you that there's something that you're not doing right. And it started happening with me losing my patience with my job. And it started realizing, because I started complaining about my job, And it got to a point where I'm like, bro, 6 months ago, you weren't complaining when you got hired, when you needed that job that pays your bills and your lifestyle, right? That allows you to have a $400 setup for your podcast. That's nice, right? That's real nice.
Yeah.
Real pretty. Oh, that's a nice microphone. How'd you get it? Right? And that's kind of that voice that I hear in my head telling you, like, be more grateful. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it all goes into acceptance, like not only just like situational acceptance, but self-acceptance. Like when you brought up the situation about being in traffic, like I always look at that as, yes, I'm upset. Yes, I'm impatient as hell. But like what if something is protecting you from getting to that place at that time? That you were destined, so to speak. You were supposed to be there at a certain time, but now you are behind. And I air quote it because of the simple fact that I always believe that everyone is in the right place at the right time when they're supposed to be there. And maybe you're supposed to encounter someone, avoid something, whatever the case may be. But I, for me, feel like a lot of frustration and anger comes from not accepting things as they are. And it goes back into what you said about control. And how can we accept that we're never in control, except in how we respond to situations.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. We've covered a lot. I appreciate it. I hope you can have me here again. And,
you sure will be back. Thank you so much, Edwin. Let the people know where to find you and how to support you.
Absolutely. Really just check out my TikTok. I always tell people, kind of like how I always get clients, is I always tell people my first session is free, because then they kind of determine if they like the session, the collaboration, the chemistry or not. And then after that, they can pay for it. So really, you don't have to do anything. Just check out my TikTok at Couch Buddha. And if you like the content, go ahead and follow.
Thank you so much for joining today's Lionhearted Conversation. You are truly one of the most inspirational lions to me. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the conversation. Wow. I'm about to make that my intro.
Yeah. Wow.
I hope you have a great evening, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. You too. Bye-bye.